Okay, step 1, buy beautiful, nice gravy boat. Step 2, fill with delicious homemade pan gravy. Here's part 2. All right, take your chicken out of that pan. Now, what you're going to have in that pan is basically melted fat, mostly that nicer butter we did yesterday, and all those beautiful brown bits caramelized to the bottom. So pour off the fat, the oil, the butter into a bowl, and then add 2 tablespoons of flour to what was left in the pan, which is that nice brown caramelized meat juice. Now, it's going to look very dry. Okay, again, that was like 2 rounded tablespoons of flour. I can tell, and I gave it a few seconds before I decided, but I can tell that there's not enough fat to absorb that flour. So that's why I wanted you to reserve that butter that you poured off into a bowl. Add a couple tablespoons back in, give it a little mix with your whip, and see that was just enough fat. See, we just want enough fat to absorb the flour. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to toast that on a low heat for 5 minutes, and we're just toasting the flour, the butter, and whatever pan drippings and caramelized meat juice were on that pan for 5 minutes, and that basically is a type of a roux. Now here's where we start going gravy on this thing. We're going to drizzle in cold chicken stock, okay? About maybe a third of a cup at a time. Pour it in, give it a stir, pour it in, give it a stir. Even more of that delicious goodness is going to cook off the bottom or release from the bottom of the pan. The whole key with roasting in this pan to begin with is because we wanted to form those caramelized meat juices, which we did. All right, the roux is to thicken it, and the stock we're adding now is to basically release all the flavor and bring everything together. So you're going to stir that around on low heat, about 5 or 6 minutes. Everything should be released off the bottom of the pan. It should start to thicken nicely. Then, again, this is a technique, not a recipe. You're going to adjust. You're going to add more stock. You're going to reduce to make it thicker. You're going to adjust. So anyway, let it come to a simmer before you make any of these decisions. I think I added probably 2 cups of stock altogether at this point. There we go. Okay, 5 minutes later, it was simmering. Now, that's as thick as mine's going to get. Okay, if I want it thicker, I'm going to reduce it, which means simmer it longer. If I want it thinner, I'm going to add more stock. I would say safe bet, cook this for about 10 minutes on low, just to make sure all the starch is cooked out. And that's about as thick as I wanted mine. So I put it on low. I cooked it for a few more minutes. That's a pan gravy. All right, so let me recap. Pour off the butter. Don't scrape the pan. Leave everything else back in there. You're just pouring off the fat into a bowl. Add 2 tablespoons of flour. Mix it around to form a very dry, crumbly roux. If you need to, like we did, add a tablespoon or 2 of butter back in. All right. Add your stock. Cook it for about 10 minutes. Pan gravy. Now, if you're worried there's lumps or you don't want the pieces of garlic in there, strain it. Okay. It doesn't bother me. I pour this right over, country style. Right? But anyway, that is your basic pan gravy technique, and it doesn't matter what the meat is. You can do this for a leg of lamb, a roast beef, a roast pork loin, same exact technique. All right? Pour off the fat, a little bit of flour, make a roux, add your stock. You're good to go. All right? So I hope this works for you. I'll give a nice detailed explanation on the website, and I really hope you give this a try. Do not buy packaged gravy, ever. You don't need to. That's why you use that nice pan and have all that goodness at the bottom. We're going to utilize that. So anyway, enjoy.